Joy, we get to do this again. Miss Emily Murphy, thank you for taking me on this invitation to Real Talk with Caesar. This is a form of reciprocation. I've already participated in your podcast, which was wonderful. We're going to get into that a little bit. I'm going to tune right because I'm presuming this is the live camera show here. Thank you all. This is a bit of a pilot experience for us. We typically don't have lives when we do our podcasting, but welcome to the show if you're tuning in. I hope that you pick up some relevant content, and you're going to get to love Miss Murphy if you don't know her already. So yeah, we'll go.
Thanks for having me, Caesar.
Thank you. So exciting, right? So let's give a bit of a formalized intro, not too much, but Hormone Balance Expert.
Yeah.
Right?
Hormone specialist. I work with women and men who are interested in figuring out where the state of their health is so that they can move towards their goals and feel better, look better, be more vibrant in their life, and just thrive instead of barely surviving, which is where people usually come to me.
Yeah, I like that. Thrive and not survive, and thrive and not just survive. I know exactly what that feels like. So in context, whatever you feel comfortable with, do you want to provide us more background in terms of, did you grow up in Florida? Just very loose general stuff to get to know you a little bit better for maybe some folks out there that don't know you.
Yeah, I've been here for a long time. I'm originally from out west, Seattle, Washington, but I've been here a long time. And I was an athletic kid growing up. I'm sure too, you're around my age, right? We played outside.
Yeah.
We weren't glued to video games and things, and I think we had such a different childhood from the kids growing up now.
Right.
And the differences in, how we cope with things are so different and so relevant in what I'm sure what you do also in talking to people and helping them manage and figure out what they're going through, right? Because that's what we're all trying to do. Figure out what's going on in my body, what's going on in my brain, and how do I take this living being, right, and do the world with it, do life with it. And so I feel like I was really blessed growing up. We ate nutritious foods. We didn't snack all the time. We had home-cooked meals. My grandmother lived with us. And we weren't ever too busy that we had to always eat fast food or anything like that. So I feel like I had a very well-rounded, healthy childhood growing up. But when I was pregnant with my daughter at 20 years old, I gained almost 90 pounds. And I ended up losing that in about 10 months after I had her. And I really just realized I wanted to be healthy. I wanted to be a healthy mom. I didn't want to have excess weight. I wanted to feel athletic and feel strong in my body. And so as I was losing weight, people started asking me what I was doing. And that's when I say I got in the business of transformations. I wanted to help other people do what I was doing. And so many people were inquiring and asking. It kind of just evolved into that. And I started personal training. I went to school for nutrition and became a nutritionist. And that was kind of where everything really started. My career started in fitness and wellness. And fast forward to COVID, which we were just talking about, my hormones hit the wall. Everything in my body of what I had known was healthy did not feel well. Everything was wrong. At the doctor though, there was nothing, nobody could say, this is wrong with you. I didn't have cancer, I didn't have diabetes, I didn't have something that was very obvious. But I knew something was wrong. I didn't want to get out of bed. I couldn't keep a single thought in my head. It was just racing all the time. I had really bad anxiety. And really took a deep dive into my hormones and met a specialist who I work with now. And that's what we do. We help people that were feeling just like I was, come out of the fog and like I said, start living again.
So with COVID, it was after contraction that you started getting different symptoms or your body
reacting? So not
reacting
necessarily COVID. I'm talking about quarantine, the world shutting down, the stress.
Okay. Just the sheer angst and the stress of
the kids in and
the
out of
seclusion
sports
and all
and
that.
school and not being able to handle. We all live at this high level of stress, most of us, anyway, right? We all, even, and you seem like a really relaxed guy, so I like being around you. Your vibe is so calm, right? Most people aren't like that.
There is a little Buddha back there, by the way. So the little Buddha has that effect.
But even with men, my husband's a very calm person also. But he internalizes stress. I mean, we can see it in his labs too. I can see it in everybody's labs. That's why I'm safe to say everybody is stressed, right? At some level in their bodies and what's going on in their brain, whether they look like they're handling it well or not, because things aren't like what they used to be like. Like, we have access to these phones that are just, the world of information. In a second, we can take in how much negativity just pours in, right? Mm-hmm. And we don't have control of that sometimes. It's like you just pick it up and there's lots of exposure there. So besides all the stress, like, we bring on ourselves, the obligations, we say yes to everything, we run our kids around, to a million things a week, all the things, we're all stressed. So when COVID happened, that was just the tip of my, I was already at the brim, and then started pouring over from there. So my body said, no, this is too much for us. And it just literally locked up on me.
So scaling back, you mentioned obviously really healthy upbringing. You had a lot of good people around you growing up, good modeling. Seems like you had a pretty healthy nuclear family vibe going on at home. Is it your parents? Is it the great uncle or the great aunt? Who else other than maybe your immediate family, or if it is your immediate family, kind of chartered this path for you?
I think a lot of it was the influence of just a different time. I really do think it was just, my sister and I, we got to watch like an hour and a half of TV every night. We got to watch 30 minutes of our own show, and if we could agree on a show together, which almost didn't happen regularly, we could watch another 30 minutes. And, so, I mean, compared to, kids that get home or are on screens just all day, they're in the car on screens, they're not active and present, and adults are getting like that too. I'm guilty of it too, where we can just kind of zone out on our phones. I know we talk a lot about that. And so it's just a different time where we didn't have access and exposure to all these things we have to look out for now.
So let's dive into one of your passion projects, which is this whole thing about hormones. So me, I am a wellness coach, so I possibly have a bit more garnered knowledge than the average Joe or Jane out there. But can you tell us a bit more? Why should we care so much about equilibrium, homeostasis, and the fact that our hormones are out of whack?
Yeah.
So just,
So
give us paint a picture for us.
Are messengers, right? And they send signals all day long, and there's so many hormones going that are making things happen in our bodies. If we think about little workers just doing all the things, building the bridges, making the sidewalks, right? Carrying food from places to places. They control everything in our bodies. But when we have a certain amount of stress in our bodies, that's too much for us to handle. And there are hormones that are stressful, like cortisol, that can be positive, but when there's too much of something, it becomes negative. When we have toxins in our environment, when we're eating things that aren't good for us, the messengers that were doing their job well start to speak different languages, right? And so then nobody's communicating in layman's terms, right? I'm speaking Spanish, you're speaking French, right? And things aren't getting done all of a sudden. Right, the nutrition that you should be taking in isn't coming in. Your body says this is a foreign substance. How are we supposed to give them energy with this, right? And the easiest thing the body can do when it needs to protect you from something is wrap something in fat and store it away from your vital organs. So people usually start paying attention, women do, when we talk hormones, they start paying attention to hormones because maybe they're gaining weight or they don't like the way they look, right? So that's a secondary thought or awareness where now it's like, I want to solve this problem. How do I do that, right? What are all these things? And hormones have become a buzzword and a trending topic because there's not a lot of research, there's not a lot of medical protocols that are out there because women's hormones especially have been way on the back burner of anything, that the medical community and Western medicine cares about, right? They don't even have actual protocols for menopause for for women as they age, and there's andropause for men that go through it too.
You literally read my mind. I only saw that word because I went to your bio, started looking at some of the coin words. What is andropause?
It's the same thing that happens to women, but it happens to men around 30. After we hit 35, hormones start to decline, and they're already declining usually because of the exposure that we have to stress and our environmental toxins and all the things now. So andropause, and I know it's not big. It's not, you don't see it online a lot. And now you might because we're talking about it. You're going to start seeing ads for andropause.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know. Sorry for anybody out there that would expect that I know it. I've never heard of andropause.
Yeah, but I mean, if you've ever thought, and after how old are you?
47.
Yes, 47. You
Yeah.
don't look 47. But maybe you've noticed, that things are different after 40 than they were,
Yeah.
and how you felt in your 20s.
Absolutely.
You don't wake up like with as much energy. If you don't get a good night's sleep, it's harder to get through your day, right? And hormones are declining. Stress hits you a little different. Maybe you don't recover from illness as well, right? And as our sex hormones start to drop, that's what happens. That's aging. Right, so I mean, it's very real for men and for women. I don't know if men become as emotional or dramatic about it, I guess, as the women. But it's harder to put on muscle. It's harder to lose weight, and you guys don't get hot flashes like we do and go through some of that. But hair loss is part of it. I mean, it's part of aging, and so. Yeah, and there's ways to slow it down. There's ways like hormone replacement therapy where, you can bring hormones back and supplement with them and feel a little better if you're really low and you need them. Those are options.
So it's the weight gain, right? I mean, and obviously for myself, I've been a relatively slender man for most of my life, but 40, that was that key pivotal moment where, oh my gosh, I don't have a six-pack.
Yeah.
I actually have to go to the gym.
Yeah.
So things really started slowing down for me, like physiologically, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
You talked a little bit already about stress and anxiety. For myself, my predisposition mentally, probably since birth, has been to be more anxious. So that's been a little bit of the wiring going on. One of the potential effects of the andropause for me was the anxiety seemed to simmer down a little bit, and I don't know if my T levels have been historically high, possibly. I don't know. I saw a functional medicine doctor about 6 or 7 years ago who's a pretty big game in town. His name is Dr. Kirti Kalidas, and he did all sorts of blood work for me to try to figure out where I was with different things. And he said, when he was perusing through my blood levels, he's like, oh, your testosterone's, I don't recall the scale, but I think like 700 and up.
Okay.
And he goes, it's actually pretty high. My wife and I look at each other, really?
Yeah.
What are the telltale signs of that? So I think that would explain my slenderness for a while. But
parts of it, so it's all pieces to a puzzle. And so men can have high testosterone, women can have high testosterone too, but there are other factors also. If you weren't feeling your best, which is usually how we end up at a functional medicine practitioner or doctor trying to look for answers.
Right.
There's not a lot of people lined up that are like, I feel amazing, let's go run my labs right now, which is the problem because we don't know what you looked like before. When you did feel your best, we don't have those labs. So it's hard to compare. Were you double that when you felt good? And now this is
exactly. I have
low.
no
But
idea.
to him, he's looking at people that are in the 200s or 300s all day. You look great, right? It's hard for him to give you a diagnosis. But then there are other factors. Was your cortisol high? How was your adrenal function? Was he looking at these things? Where was your SHBG, that sex hormone binding globulin? It blocks your testosterone from being used. So there are other factors that number could be high. What are your symptoms, right? And where can we maybe take at least a range and estimate of where you were? Because if you're not feeling good at 700, something's up.
All right, so we're gonna park the car right there. I think this is a good one right here. So, conventional medicine. My brother-in-law who's been to our retreat, Guillermo, we love you, by the way, is a phenomenal doctor. I don't want to poo-poo a whole, Western medicine. That's not what this.
We need them.
Right, this is not exactly. And I'm glad that you said that. However, you do have functional medicine doctors, which now bridge the gap a little bit between the holistic practices and the conventional. You have just folks that are holistic practitioners alone. We have the whole gamut, and I do believe that we need them all, right? That being said, though, unfortunately, in just purely conventional medicine practice, there are testimonials like myself where things don't work out quite so well. So I wound up going to Dr. Corticalidas at that point because of gastritis. I have a hiatal hernia. And for those folks that may not know what that is, but essentially your esophageal lining went into, or your stomach went into your esophageal lining, and now all of a sudden that little valve that's supposed to protect from that hydrochloric acid, not going into your esophagus and you get ulcers and all whole nine. It's pretty messy stuff. The long and short of it was I was a PPI, was a proton pump inhibitor user of omeprazole specifically for about 5 to 6 years, and it done screwed me up.
Yeah.
I have 2 torn Achilles tendons, which is highly unusual, like 0.00005% of the global population could probably say I have 2 torn Achilles, left and right. And I attribute that just from basic Google research, really. That it's a known side effect, that it affects your joints, your articulations, your tissues, and all of that.
Yeah.
I was never told that. So can you speak into your own story, which I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but whatever you're willing to share, as to, conventional practice is awesome, but it's not the whole story for everybody.
And I went to an OBGYN when I wasn't feeling my best, and just for my regular annual checkup, and then started talking to her about hormones. And I have always had really bad PMS. I was diagnosed with PMDD. That's when it's PMS on steroids. It's you're like having out of body experiences before your menstrual cycle, where you just feel so off, not like yourself, run down, tired, angry, just raging sometimes. I mean, it was bad. And I have been experiencing all of this every month, for 25 years, right? When I went to the OBGYN and said, things are off, things are getting worse, right? And I'm getting older, this seems like this should be stuff where, teenagers deal with this, and I still don't have answers. And she told me that there's no point of testing your hormones because they always change, right? So, and I'm not going to be able to get insurance to run your labs. You're not even 40 years old, because I was 37. So she put me on birth control, and we tried 4 different types of birth control. My hair was falling out. I didn't feel well. I felt off. It felt like I was PMSing all the time now, and just got worse and worse. I went to my regular doctor, who prescribed an anti-anxiety, antidepressant. I sat around for a few weeks and thought, okay, everything's okay. I'm not getting anything done. In this kind of zoned out feeling where I have never been like that ever. And I thought, this is just not right. That was my experience with what I was dealing with before I found.
It's almost like it changed your personality overnight.
Right. But that was my experience with Western medicine, and trying to get answers with what was going on. And, they said to me, and I had gained 8 pounds, which isn't a big deal, most people would say, in a month though. And for me, who I have not been overweight since I lost my weight, that I knew something was wrong. I didn't change anything, but it was the stress, and it was my body kind of locking up and saying, you're not safe. So I just needed more answers than what I got, and I was glad that I kept looking, and there were answers in the labs when we ran the right labs and started really diving in.
Interesting. When you and I sat together the last time, it was for your podcast, like I mentioned before. I come from my paradigms, my lens, my vocation is more life coaching, as you know. So folks out there that don't really know what that is, it's habit formation / addressing your fears. There's a whole gamut of other things, but it's a different type of consultation than, say, just purely health or physiological issues. Mindset, right? So that's where what I wanted to arrive at is you're also a mindset coach, and I'm wondering with your different practices, your individualized coaching program, and you're also with My Health Matrix, if I recall correctly, how much of the blockage and resistance that a female male gets from your experience is historically more, boy, they got some toxic beliefs going on, their programming is faulty, no matter what we address with the blood work, there's something else going on here. Can you associate those two and make sense out of it? You know, is it 50%? Is it 20%?
I mean, it's hard to put a percentage on things. I feel like I have watched people totally transform in their whole, I guess, vibe, aura, whatever you would say, where you can tell people can start to at least regulate their nervous system on a level. When we have people come in, they're wounded almost, right?
Yeah.
And they're sitting through a 90-minute consultation, or even when I'm doing onboarding calls with people and their blood sugar isn't balanced, they haven't had the right nutrition in so long, right? Their body is just all out of sorts. Mm-hmm. It's hard to get a hold of somebody and kind of go like, focus, come on, it's like a kid on like ADHD, just bouncing around. And, right, and very negative about things because hope's been gone for a long time for people. So when we can move the needle and start to show people, one, there's answers, two, there's like, there will be things that happen very quickly in how you feel. It's like a breath of fresh air, right? And people can start to focus a little and start to grab onto goals. Then you kind of see where the dust settles and where their beliefs are, because the main drivers of what has got them there are going to be your biggest influencers are your habits and your nutrition. I mean, yes, there will be stress, but stress is always going to be a constant, so we can say that that's there. But how do you manage it, and how well can your body, take on these things, right? Just so like when you get sick, right? How well is your body equipped to handle what's coming at it? Are you putting garbage in your body all day long to deal with the stress, right? So something that should be helping us and armoring us for how we, can combat stress and think clearer and be better and compartmentalize things, have energy for the tasks at hand and everything that's coming at us. Now, are we taking that and fueling with just junk, which is going to just, make things harder and crazier? Are we dehydrated throughout the day? I mean, if you look at symptoms of dehydration and symptoms of hormone imbalance, 50% across the board, when we get you hydrated, if these things are still there, they're hormone imbalance, but we could clear up a lot of those just from drinking water all day, and making sure that you're hydrated. And people get so far away from the basics, and that's the habits. What do you do when you wake up in the morning? Do you grab your phone? Do you start to get stressed out right away? Do you not eat breakfast? Do you rely on Wawa or, where Dunkin' Donuts to make sure you get fed in the morning? How do you just start your day? And then, a lot of people don't even leave their home with food. No. Like they're just like, oh, we'll see what the day's going to bring. Well, it's probably going to bring a bunch of junk inside of your system. And that's not going to help you out at all. So, there's a lot that goes into it. Now, how well can you maintain those habits and keep things back to balance? Because we can give you hormones, supplements. Right. We can give these things to you, but the body will find its way back out if you're not doing the things. Yeah.
That's I think that's true for any type of change.
Right.
Is, navigating those waters. What are some of the things from a mindset standpoint that could be? And I think we kind of talked a little bit about it. We didn't get super deep, and I think the life coach in me a lot of times wants to go yesteryear before getting to the present and all that. Somewhat like a psychologist would do, having done like trauma-informed care and things like that. But as we mentioned in our conversation previously, not everything is necessarily trauma. Some of these things are just adopted experiential things because, my mom used to say, there's no rest for the wicked. There's no rest, am I wicked? Does that mean I should never rest? And we just absorb even coined sayings and it becomes kind of like a label. And I think you actually mentioned that in your programming, that we wear productivity as a mantle of honor.
Oh, yeah.
So if we're not, for the lady staying at home and 50 extracurriculars after school and prepping the house, possibly working from home and doing a million things. We're not superwoman. It's not good.
Right.
So that alone will get you all screwed up and out of whack.
Yeah, because you're just constantly carrying that burden of stress and these beliefs that, that you can do everything. And I'm sorry, I mean, we have to come to a realization that we just can't. That there's just not enough time to say yes to everything. There's not enough of your energy to say yes to everyone else and say yes to yourself. There's no way that you can be successful. Like, you may be successful at work. You're not going to be successful in your health. You're probably not going to be successful in your relationships,
exactly.
right? And
Absolutely.
if you're successful at just giving all to your family and your relationships at home, you probably aren't giving enough to work. You're probably not giving enough to your health. So it's just finding a balance.
Even in the space that we find ourselves in, this is my home office. If you would have been here about maybe a year and a half to 2 years ago, the feel and vibe that you say you feel and receive now, oh, you seem like you're not super stressed out guy, would have completely gone away.
Yeah.
I think Adam may have seen this at some juncture. We're talking like clutter, hoarding 101. So an outward expression of what was going on inside.
Yeah.
Not good. However, if you looked up on the walls, bunch of certificates.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like perspective. It's like, the person that was in here a year and a half ago to 2 years ago was looking up on the wall and feeling very successful. Maybe Adam comes in, somebody else comes in, wow, what educated guy, apparently an engineer, what have you, all the superficial accolades, but missed all the hoarding.
Yeah.
To the point, not to get lost in that, but decluttering for me became a week and a half. So we had a huge bin because we did the flooring over here. We have vinyl flooring now, but we had rugs before. That was a big to-do, as you know. Anytime you're doing a house remodel or you're inside the house, it's a ruckus mess.
Yeah, I just experienced it.
This very room, I think I counted 15 tall garbage bags of crap, basically, that I had in here. Wow. So just to basically highlight that your mind could be so cluttery that you just don't have space for a good diet.
Right. Oh, yeah. Or any more habits. I mean, one of the first exercises inside my program that I do is actually have people lay out their week and say, okay, when are we going to meal prep? When are we going to grocery shop? When are we going to meal prep? When are we going to work out or have some quiet time? Because a lot of times we want to add these things because we know they're good for us. And we're like, I know I should be working out. I have that gym membership. I never go. I need to go. And we don't even look at our schedule and go, can this actually fit? Right? You're going a million miles a minute, and then you feel bad you feel bad and you feel down on yourself by the end of the week. Another week that I didn't do it. Another week I disappointed myself. Another week I'm not going to be in shape, and this is never going to happen to me. And we compound those negative thoughts based on something that was never realistic in the first place.
Right.
It's crazy. And
Absolutely.
then when you can lay this out with somebody and go, like, let's look at our time. Where do you actually have the time? You do have to start saying no to some other things, right? I mean, it's just, or maybe you do only get 2 workouts a week.
Right.
But that's okay, because that's your 100%. If you showed up for the 2 times that you only had 20 minutes, that's your 100%. You should feel good about it by the end of the week. Not down on it. Maybe your journey's a little slower than somebody who doesn't have kids or somebody that, has whatever that's easier for them. Right. But you'll still get there, right? It's just a matter of being okay with going at the pace that you can allot for. And that with health, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter how slow we go. We just have to keep going in that direction. We can never just say, and I hear this from people all the time, like, I need to start over. I need to, start over from what?
Right.
No, you need to get up and feed yourself today and make it something healthy and drink some water and take care of yourself, right? You don't ever go I'm just going to quit brushing my teeth for a while. I'm just going to give up on that for now, and maybe I'll get my stuff together enough. In a couple weeks, I'll start it over again.
You look great, but your teeth are black. What's going on? It's like, what happened there?
It needs to just become habits that we don't just say screw it when it comes to our health. We say screw it when it comes to saying yes to the 4th birthday party for running our kids around this month or whatever. It's like, it's okay. We just got to say no to some things and take our life back.
Okay, let's now make the presumption we have the headspace right. There's room for for more, this whole thing about dieting, when I was writing up this thing, there's a gentleman at the gym, at the now Esporta gym. It used to be the LA Fitness. He's got to be about 65. And the guy looks super lean, definitely a model or a template to follow, at least 15, 18 years my senior. I talk to the guy all the time, and last time I saw him, he was really putting on a lot of focus on dieting specifically. Apparently this gentleman's been working out for a long time. I understand Miss Murphy is a fitness model, or has been a fitness model.
Now I'm a mom model, which...
Right? But in that space, for somebody who's taken that to that level of rigor and intensity, what's been sourced to me from a guy like that that's been doing it for 40 years and is much older, that it is in fact a much higher percentage, according to him, and you can discount it if you would like, I just want to hear what you have to say, about what you eat and less about the weight resistance training and the functional training and all that. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I love that topic. So I just had a conversation with a lady inside my program last week, and she was, again, so down on herself that she hadn't worked out. And when we dove into it and kind of got down the road of, what was she thinking these workouts were for? She was thinking that they were for weight loss.
Okay.
And so when she thought about doing them, what did a 20-minute weight training session or exercise session matter, right? Because she still has X amount of weight to lose.
Right.
So one session isn't going to do anything. So every night, when you come home and you're tired and your days hit you and you don't have enough energy, right? It's really easy to have a conversation and talk yourself out of that 20 or 30 minutes it's going to take, right? Because it's going to take so many of those to compound fat loss.
Right.
I said, why do you think we're working out for fat loss, right? You're sitting at a desk all day long. Like, we need to, as human beings, we need to get up and move our bodies, right? That 20 or 30 minutes that I assign people inside my program of just movement, I don't even care what they do. Like, it's not even a structured workout at the beginning. It's just because we've been sitting all day, and we are not supposed to process stress in a sitting position. That is not all of our physiological, all the hormones that go on when you're stressed, right? What the body does to your energy stores to have them usable, right, for stress. They're for you to run from a wild animal or danger, or run to catch an animal to eat, right? It's like when we're under acute stress, things happen in our bodies for us to be in motion. So when we sit and read emails or we're talking on the phone, or a boss comes in and yells at us, whatever happens, right? And we're just internalizing, processing stress all day, it's horrible for us. So that was one of the reasons. It's like, let's move, because we need to negate everything that happened during the day, right? We need to get, your tissues hydrated, right? It's physiological, we need it.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, it does not matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter how much dysfunction you have in your body. The body gets better at what it does with exercise. So if you do the same thing, if you do 10 push-ups today and you barely do them and you're on your knees and you fall to the floor each time you do them and you barely push yourself up, in 2 weeks doing those same 10 push-ups, you're better at them.
Right.
There is nothing will keep you back unless you don't have arms, right? We can say you will 100%, if you do them every day, you will be better at them in 2 weeks. And so with exercise, we're trying to get stronger. Right, that is the goal of exercise, is to help our body be stressed enough that we can go out and deal with stress better in our life, and then we can get stronger. So I said, there's nothing, if you do an exercise today, almost in 2 days, you might even be able to do it better. So now you're, like, the mindset has shifted, and you're like, okay, exercise is for this. It's not for losing weight. Exercise is not a weight loss strategy. You're never going to get into, a calorie deficit far enough with your calories burned during the day that you'll be able to eat whatever you want or manage, losing weight that way. It's just for, us as humans to get stronger and be better. Now, so the diet part and the habit part, I say it's the other 23 hours of your day. If you're exercising for an hour or even half an hour, 23 and a half or 23 hours a day, your habits, your nutrition, how well you sleep, how well you think and process and manage your stress. This is where, when we're talking weight loss and health, what is really going to matter.
So that's a huge component, the bigger component for sure.
Right. Are all, when we talk about exercise, it's a small piece of the puzzle, We absolutely need it, especially after 40. If you're not lifting weights and active and making sure that you are getting stronger before you're 40, which is when you should do it, because you have the hormones, you have the ability to put on muscle. And when you get, after you age and you're over 40, it's a lot harder. But what you don't use, you lose. And that's so dangerous, right?
Yeah.
So dangerous when you get older.
And I listen to my morning podcast intake, is a lot of self-care, personal optimization, personal development type stuff. And without fail, as you're mentioning, as we age, the bigger element to it, even more so than a cancer or all of these other inflammatory related diseases, which most are, is a fall.
Yeah.
So the person that made it to be 75, 80 years old, it's the bone fracture, which unfortunately we've seen play out in our family. Mother-in-law, for example, was married to a gentleman for a long time, 87 years old, rabid smoker his entire life. And it wasn't the lung cancer that got him, it was literally the fall.
Mm-hmm.
And then succumbing eventually to things like clinical pneumonia and things like that, but after a long battle over these fractures, because when you're brittle and not quite as nimble, that muscle composition is key in order for us to have, I guess, a good quality of life as we age.
Yeah, and I don't know the statistics for men, but for women, when a woman falls and breaks a hip, they're 50% more likely to die within a year.
Goodness.
Yeah,
I hadn't
that's
heard that
crazy.
before.
I mean, just crazy. And so, we think about we're busy now, we can always put this off till later. These habits and things like strength training, working out, never get easier as you get older. Today is the easiest that will ever be in your life to start something like that.
Another testimonial, just from folks like very real time in my circle, Miss Diana from the Sport of Fitness, same thing. 76 years old, I think, when she first starts going to the gym. She alleges to being on no less than 15 medications on a per day basis, per day, not like the whole week. I think now after about a year and a half of her own going to the gym, and she's lost obviously incredible amounts of weight, but she's down to like 1 or 2 pills.
Wow.
So,
So
a
much
miracle.
reversible.
You could almost look at it in that light. It's almost miraculous what it can do to people to just lean into their physical care and things like this.
Yeah, but a lot of people are convinced once they're on those things, they're done.
Yeah.
I mean, if they haven't gotten it together enough and now they're sick enough that the doctor says this is what you have to take, they think they're stuck, and it's not. It's for some people it is the case, and you will have to live out your life on medications. But we see it every day. There are people come off stuff.
And again, it's the consumerism. It's the society that we live in. We can get into that really deep. I programmed in that 2 or 3 days of a common cold was far too long for me. This was like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So, some of these folks watching this may know the Zithromax, I think it's called the Z-Pack.
Okay.
Which is that 5-day antibiotic treatment people typically take when they're dealing with some sort of like cold symptoms type
flu
deal,
or
right?
whatever
Flu.
Something to knock it out quick.
I would say 3 to 4 times per year I was using that.
Wow, that'll wreck you.
Right. Can you speak into the overusage of antibiotics and why this is not recommended?
Did that have anything to do with your gastro issues?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I figured. I mean, that was the...
So I was such a wreck. You can speak into that, but like the natural flora in your stomach, for example, you're compromising that every time that you have antibiotics. So again, love and grace to all doctors, but unfortunately a lot of times you get the script for the Z-Pack, you're not told to take at least 3 or 4 Activia throughout the day so that you keep your flora up. Because you're killing the bad stuff, but you're also killing all the good stuff that you need for proper digestion.
Yeah.
So,
and the doctor's not going to educate you on how, the gut health is the center of your immune system. The gut is.
70-something%, right?
It's really...
pretty high.
Yeah. And, we can tell. And what I try to teach people is that, what are the things that come up for you that show us that you're generally struggling with your health, metabolism, or hormones, right? And being sick all the time is one of them.
Okay.
And so, I mean, because compromised immune system, I mean, that, right, it's the gut, it's everything, right? No other things are functioning when you're sick, because we're using everything we got to put out this fire.
Right.
And so we're talking about other things breaking down, down the chain.
Right.
So if, you're somebody that does get sick all the time, it's time to take a good, close look at what is going on. You're probably missing nutrition. You're probably, out of balance. You probably have other symptoms and things that, we could probably tell. Do you sleep enough? Are you getting enough rest? Do you just have so much cortisol and stress all day long that your immune system is burning through your nutrients? Magnesium is the first mineral that we deplete when we're stressed. Everybody needs magnesium. There's no way we get enough of it in our foods because of the way our soil is, and even our animals are farmed and everything. What they're eating is not full of magnesium like it was, hundreds of years ago. So if we deplete that, right, and we're always deficient in these things, we're never refilling. We're never like at full capacity. So the antibiotics, right, you're right. We kill off all the bacteria, good and bad. So we have no fighters left, right? And then you're coming off of antibiotics, and then a month later you're sick again. Right? Because you had nothing. So, I mean, probiotics and prebiotics, they're great. I mean, I would say no less than 30 days using them after you have to go on antibiotics. Antibiotics are great. I mean, they're part of modern medicine that keep people alive right now. And it's hard when we're in our day-to-day, we're trying to find fast solutions, right? When you get sick, we need to find a fast solution. You got to get back to work. You got to get your kid back in the daycare or in school. They don't want them there if they're sick, so we start pumping them full of antibiotics and things that will get them back faster. But, I mean, if you go through 2 rounds of that, you better be taking a step back and going, like, what can we do to prevent this from happening again? And what do we need to change? Because for a kid to be on, 3 to 4 rounds of antibiotics a year, they're never getting better.
So my story, very quickly, with respect to my lowered immunity and lack of good flora and all that, 24 years old, I'm seeing an internist, a doctor, and I had gone on a trip to Colombia or Puerto Rico, and I picked up parasites. They had done a stool sample, how's your flatulence, and all these things come up, and oh my gosh, you have this weird parasite, we need to get rid of it. So clearly they gave us Flagyl for something like that. I think it's a pretty established antibiotic. But the length of time that he gave me that bordered on over 60 days.
Yeah.
That's a ton of antibiotics. Unfortunately for me, that wasn't compounded with the fact like, hey, this is a ton of antibiotics, we're going to get rid of the parasites, but we're going to kill every bit of good bacteria that you have ever had since you were born. Yeah. And ever since then, I was basically dysregular well into my 30s and my 40s. Yeah. And there's still remnants of that. So this is my testimonial, at least, in terms of like, don't always wholesale consume the script.
Right. And in between, like I said,
like
if this has happened 2 or 3 times already and you're going like, we're getting sick all the time, don't go buy some gummy vitamins at Target.
Right.
Well, let's look at some real things that need to happen in order for your immune system to get better.
So let's talk a bit about staying with this, some of the physiological things that go wrong because of bad habits. Cyclical dieting. So the fad diet. I think we've all had the family member, maybe ourselves, we've tried it. We hear the latest great thing and we're jumping right in.
Yeah, me too. I love diets.
6 months later, though, we go into another one. So for some of your clients, have you seen a situation where it's the constant, perpetual dieting that maybe has had a long-term effect?
Oh, 100% in most of my clients, and myself included, which was trying to maintain the lowest amount of calories possible, right, in a constant state of more stress because of that, because when we're not feeding ourselves enough, and you may feel anxious, you may feel restless, you may feel like, something is off. Well, if this was 1,000 years ago and you needed to hunt your food and your body thought there must not be enough food available, your body doesn't know there's Wendy's down the road and you could just pull through a drive-through. It thinks, stay aware, be hyper-focused, right? Hypersensitive to your surroundings. You're in danger, right? So we're feeling that, and it's our kids talking to us, and we're like, freaking out. And and we get so stressed, we go then binge eat, or we are trying to suppress calories so much and suppress hunger, which hunger, people don't realize, is a very healthy marker of your metabolism. If you can feel hunger, you probably are regulating stress. Because if this building was burning down, if we had to run out of here, the last thing you would go is, hey, Emily, want something to eat? Right? We wouldn't stop and eat. So we wouldn't feel hunger. If we hadn't eaten all day, we still wouldn't feel hunger if this, if the house was burning, we had to run out of here. So it's great to feel hunger, right? When you're not feeling hungry and you can go all day without eating, that's a sign. Something's off. Cortisol's running high, adrenaline's running high, right? You're not feeling your basic human needs where, you should feed yourself. So there are all these things, and the bottom line is it just adds more stress. And then we're either on a diet or we're off. And a lot of people don't know what that, a transition and what healthy lifestyle. Everybody says, I just want it to be a lifestyle. And you can't make a diet a lifestyle. You have to find your maintenance calories and macros, what works for your body, your, food tolerances, what you're sensitive to and what you can't eat on a regular basis. Of course, we're going to be off our plan and eating, the things that we enjoy. Humans are meant to enjoy food. That's why we have taste buds, so we don't starve. So we go find things that taste good. But we can't, we got to find our tolerance for what's overdoing it, right? And live in that middle and moderation ground where it's okay to enjoy food, but the rest of the time we got to eat what's really good for us and what our body needs.
I love the fact that you mentioned what I, from my framework, identify identity-based habits. Don't focus on, it's not about the dieting so much as about having the lifestyle commensurate of somebody who wants to be healthy.
Right.
And having that be sort of the grounding, the principle by which you live by. And then all of a sudden you're going to eat better. You're going to put more focus on getting better sleep, mitigation of the stress and all these things. So I think that power of belief, I think that's really what it is. That I believe that these things are accessible to me. So I'm going to try to bring more in.
Yeah.
Right? So we talked a little bit about supplementation, right? Which is, I think, critical to what y'all do, at least with the My Health Matrix aspect of it. You do these comprehensive labs. You do a lot of blood work to see what the needs are, the deficiencies.
Yeah.
You mentioned dehydration. What other things are there? One of the things for me that's come up for the entirety of the family is this whole thing about vitamin D deficiency.
Yeah.
So get you on the pill real quick. Are there some other things that are catch-all? They're most of y'all are suffering from this and you don't even know it.
Yeah, vitamin D is a big one. They say that northerners are deficient, but in Florida, everyone we test is deficient. We're talking up in 98% of the labs.
Which seems wild.
And but we come
in
around
the
with
sunniest
sunscreen,
state in the country.
right? We use sunscreen.
Right.
We come in. We don't spend a lot of time outside in the summer because it's so hot. We may have other things going on where we don't absorb it well. My daughter played beach volleyball for a few months last year in her high school season, and she's darker than you, Alex. She is so dark, and in her labs, she was lower than the standard range, and that was horrible. A standard range is 30 to 100. Where you will feel good from vitamin D is between 70 and 90. So they'll tell you you're normal if you're at 32. Oh, you're good, and you're not good. But so there's those optimal ranges and standard ranges that we're always kind of fighting against when we're doing labs and when your doctor says you're normal. But normal's not great. So when you're comparing yourself to the rest of the population that's sick, and that's vitamin D is a big one.
And I can testify on that myself because, fortunately I haven't had to, go to the doctors throughout the year over year, or at least the last few years. But I have incrementally seen a change in my vitamin D levels on that annual exam. And commensurate with that, I hardly ever get sick.
Yeah.
We talked about COVID recently. I've had multiple exposures to that, and fortunately for most of my family, it's been a very quick recovery. It's not like 3 or 4 weeks with a lingering cough for 6 months, which unfortunately is you know, every body's a bit different. What happens to some folks, I do attribute some of that vitamin D regulation to be part of it.
Oh,
and
totally.
Vitamin C consumption as well.
Yes, totally.
Right?
Yeah, and we're just not going to get the things in our foods that we need, and so supplementation, I believe, is an easy way to fill the gaps of, you know, what we need, and just to make sure that you create a baseline of nutrition so that, yeah, you can be off your plan and or your, you know, regular food programming and enjoy food and not have to worry, you know, did I get this amount of nutrients in this meal, right? We can just relax a little.
I don't want to call this a fad, but another thing that's out there in, you know, in the wellness sphere, fasting, intermittent fasting, contingent on how old you are. Whereas, from what I understand, like there's a whole other camp that's talking about, no, don't eat less, eat so much more.
Yeah.
And then in looking through your bio as well, I really enjoyed that because I do believe in that wholeheartedly. The focal point of protein and making sure that you're getting sufficient amounts of protein.
Most people
that
can't afford to fast in that they don't hit their calories and macros that they need. So if you go a long period of time without eating, you're probably going to end up very deficient at the end of the day. So another problem with fasting is people will do it in the morning and not have a really good plan of where or what they're going to eat when they break their fast if they're not at home. So now you're breaking your fast, your body is like, we need nutrition ready to absorb everything at an even higher capacity, and you're going to give it junk. So that's going to be another like strike off, you know, what you're doing for your health. For women, they are showing that the longer we go without eating, the higher cortisol gets. So maybe you fast a couple times a month for general gut health and just to clear your system out, and autophagy, which I'm sure you've heard that word, that is the benefits from fasting. But if women go long periods of time without eating, our bodies think we're unsafe and something's wrong. And weight loss resistance is usually what happens. So a lot of women come to me and they're like, I've been fasting, I know what I should be doing, I'm just, you know, and usually they're not getting any results. Or fasting will work for a little bit of time if your body can handle that stress. And they like it so much. People like it because you're running up ketones and cortisol are stress hormones. When you're in ketosis, which is usually what will happen in a fasting state, your body's running on stress, and we are all addicted to running on stress. So we feel good, we feel more alert, we feel like we're handling things better, and we're hyper focused. Well, it will eventually lead to burnout. I mean, there's just not, you can't just take away with no plan of making sure that you're getting all your nutrition and everything is working well. So it's a short-term, you know, fad for some people, right? I mean, for biohackers and people that, and I still say for women, I would stay away from it, but for men, it can be very beneficial if you know how to hit your nutrient goals.
That's good to get a perspective on. And the whole kind of emphasis on everybody's different. That was a lady that you met, actually, our yoga instructor, who's for the retreats, I mean, that you've attended. Miss Natalia Foote kind of emphatically said that in one of her presentations, and I grappled onto it, that it's not necessarily one hat fits all. You have an individualized program for a reason.
Yeah.
Everybody is different, and we have males, we have females, but then everybody within those subgroups is very different too.
Yeah.
So we have to do kind of like a boutique
right.
approach more so than anything else.
Yeah, and so people shouldn't feel bad if what worked for somebody else, or a fad diet or somebody they saw online, isn't working for them. There are plenty of reasons for that. And it's not just because you're absolutely broken beyond repair and you're never going to be in shape or have the health that you want.
Yes. So I have a couple more questions. I'm going to throw the last two.
Okay.
We could do this for, I'm sure, a bit longer, but we're going to leave a whole bunch for the next episode that we're going to do together, I'm sure. These are pretty generalized in nature. For anybody still watching on the live, thank you so much if you've made it this far. I over the moon to have this young lady here present. As you can see, very authentic story. Very connected to what you're doing every day, which I think is so incredibly important, particularly in light of the fact that we're talking about stress and anxiety and what can stress the heck out of a person than not being aligned with what they do every single day. I know I've lived that out. And fortunately for me, I don't get to do that right now because I love this space, as you can tell, and what we're doing. But what could folks still watching here or maybe listening to this episode expect from Miss Murphy? I always say, like, aspirational goals. What are some of the things that, is it the new program or just anything that comes to mind in that light? And then the last thing would be a call to action to me, to Adam, to somebody watching, your deepest desire so that the world is made a little bit better by this little nugget that you're going to leave us with.
Yeah, okay. So, my big aspiration, is that right? So, I'm launching another group program here at the end of the month, and they say that like I call like the back to school time for adults is like our second new year, right? There's a lot of realization that summer has kind of been chaos for people. They've been out of routine, not focused on their health, and when kids go back to school, it's kind of time to reset that. Now, once you're in the program and we go through like what your year looks like, because we focus on things at a micro level and things at a macro level, and we kind of have these swings, whether you know what to do or not. I mean, I was off with things during the summer too for my off, and then we have to have routines and protocols to get back on, and for us to be able to recognize and be aware that I'm a little too off, right? If I go beyond this, so we have that set point where, we get back faster because we have that safety net and standard for ourselves. But, so I'm launching that group program. I mean, I hope to work with at least another 50 women here before the end of the year.
Wonderful.
I think I'll hit that goal.
Good for you, sister.
That's my big thing is how many people can I help with this problem that they have been dealing with, that they have not thought that there was a solution for so long. Mm-hmm. And recently I've been able to also work with some teenagers, which has been awesome. Nice. That we found some things that were wrong with them, and labs that were off, that were young, that if they didn't know these things, I would get them maybe when they were 40, like I experienced meeting my women now that I work with, where they've been dealing with these things for so long and never gotten answers. And so, when I help people with this, their family changes in what they eat, right? And this drips down generations for, actually learning what humans need so we can stop dieting, so we can start taking care of ourselves and just put ourselves first. Yeah.
And is that your call to action?
Yeah.
That's the call to action, have it trickle down into the family and everybody else?
Right, because this isn't rocket science, right? Yeah. It is not. And when people go through my program, the biggest thing that they say is, I didn't think it would be this easy. Now, the day-to-day, I post a lot of before and after pictures. I don't know if you've seen those, but I tell people, in these before and afters, there were thousands of hard decisions made in these before and afters. I don't want to paint a picture like this is super easy. No. But when they get a hold of it and they realize that they don't have to diet and they don't have to cut calories way back, and they can look for these signs of their health that tell them whether or not their body's doing well, and they can just, keep doing the things. They don't always have to be on a different plan, different change, a different trending diet. That's easier, right? Knowing what I got to do next year to maintain the same thing and not the new diet that I need next year to lose the 15 pounds I keep gaining every year, right? Now we can just put that aside and go focus on something else.
Well, and what I love with your new initiative too, with groups, definitely learning now the importance of doing things in a community.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, we participated together with you as a presenter at one of our community events, but in order to really instill these beliefs, to these new habits that are now commensurate with those beliefs, to know that it's available for you because, well, she's doing it,
Yeah.
he's doing it, is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And
And making changes in weight loss especially it's a lonely journey.
Yeah.
And people internalize it, and people think that they're alone, and they're the only ones that don't have support from their family, or they're the only ones whose kids don't want to eat the vegetables with them every night, or they're the only ones that are too tired to work out. And you get in a community and you hear that, you're not alone. You go, okay, if she did it, I can do it.
I've always, quote unquote, prided myself a bit in terms of like being personally motivated to move, to exercise since a very young age. But more and more as I get older and maybe a little bit more lethargic, maybe some of the hormonal things that we're talking about, I don't know. I really go to the gym to see the passerby working out, the 75-year-old lady that, was taking 2 pills when she was taking 15, because that's motivating to me.
Right.
So from that perspective, I understand now that it's my way of having a community.
Yeah.
And I talk to some of these folks very often, like, at a human level, and you get to know them after the 10th visit to go to the gym. So it's really
gyms can be really scary, and they, even for me who has a lot of experience, like I'll see a new machine or something, and I'm like, well,
what are they doing?
Sometimes I'll just go around and mess around with it and probably look like a total idiot, but it's okay, because I want my people to do the same thing and be okay with, like, what is this chest press machine I've never seen that looks like some medieval contraption, right? And you get scared and you don't do the things, so you stay on the cardio machines or where it's safe, but we got to get uncomfortable, that too.
Absolutely. Yes. Neuroplasticity. But with that, I would like to thank you, Miss Emily, for taking your time and sharing your love and your grace.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
This space. You're more than welcome to come back as many times as you would like here, and also to our retreats and all of the other ongoings that we have. For anybody still watching, again, thank you so much for your time. We'd love to be able to connect with you in this way by making these more available in the future as well. As you can see, we're bringing in folks that are, as I say, aligned with their vocation. It's not just a passion project. This is who they are, and this is how they serve the world. So you're going to get great content from here on in, I am sure. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful remainder of the day. Bye-bye.